You're telling me the role was filled last night? Monica asked, her voice steady but sharp. Darren didn't meet her eyes, just closed his notebook and nodded while Kara offered a rehearsed smile that barely masked her condescension. What none of them realized was that upstairs, behind a wall of tinted glass, the firm's new majority stakeholder, and Monica's husband, was watching every word, and he had just decided their careers were over. At precisely 8:56 a.m., Monica Taylor pulled into the underground parking garage of Westbridge and Milton, one of Chicago's most revered corporate advisory firms. The city skyline glinted above her through the slats of concrete, indifferent to the nerves tightening in her chest. She shifted her Lexus into park and exhaled, smoothing her navy blue blazer and glancing at the worn leather folder beside her on the passenger seat. Inside it were 15 years of experience, quantifiable wins, and glowing references. But in the corporate world, she knew, some people only saw what they wanted to see. At 46, Monica had built a respected career in brand strategy, driving national campaigns, managing global teams, and mentoring a generation of rising talent. She was calm, articulate, and unflinchingly composed. But stepping away from the industry for nearly 3 years to care for her mother during her terminal illness hadn't come without sacrifice. Now, with her mother gone and her grief stitched into something resembling peace, Monica was ready to return. She grabbed her folder, her phone, and her resolve, then stepped into the elevator, heels clicking softly against concrete. The lobby of Westbridge and Milton was all marble and glass, cold in its perfection. A receptionist with an impeccable bun greeted her with the kind of smile that didn't quite reach the eyes. "Good morning. May I help you?" "Yes," Monica replied with a warm but professional tone. "I'm here for the 9 a.m. interview with Kara Whitmore and Darren Lowe." The receptionist tapped on her keyboard, then blinked. "Name?" "Monica Taylor." A brief pause. Then a nod. "Right. Someone will be right with you." Monica thanked her and took a seat in a low-backed gray chair facing a wall of abstract art, shapes and strokes that meant nothing and everything all at once. She glanced at her watch. 8:59, right on time. No one else was waiting. The seconds passed in polite silence, the kind that reminded you how powerful stillness could be. At 9:06, a tall man in a slate gray suit approached. His steps were brisk, almost mechanical. "Monica Taylor?" "Yes." She stood. "Darren Lowe," he said, offering a brief handshake. "I'll be sitting in with Kara today." No eye contact. No "nice to meet you." Just a quick pivot as he gestured for her to follow. Monica's heels tapped in rhythm behind him down a hallway of frosted glass offices and closed doors. The meeting room was sleek, modern chairs, a long polished table, and a view of the lake she couldn't enjoy because Kara Whitmore was already seated, typing something on her laptop without looking up. "Let's get started," Kara said, her tone clipped. She was younger than Monica had expected, maybe early 40s, with perfectly straight hair and a demeanor that suggested she didn't make small talk with anyone beneath her title. The first 10 minutes felt more like a screening than a conversation. Kara fired off questions with the tone of someone half listening. "Why the gap? Have you worked in an office this size before? What would make you think you're a fit for this role?" Darren chimed in occasionally but seemed more interested in his phone than Monica's responses. Their faces didn't change when she spoke of leading multi-million-dollar campaigns, restructuring underperforming teams, or presenting to Fortune 100 CEOs. There was a tone beneath every question, not curious, but skeptical. Not open, but dismissive. Kara raised an eyebrow at one point. "International strategy? From where exactly?" "Toronto, London, and Johannesburg," Monica replied calmly. "As part of a global initiative for Jensen and Rourke." Kara murmured, typing something Monica couldn't see. At exactly 9:19, Darren shut his notebook. "Actually, it looks like there's been a miscommunication," he said. "This position was filled internally last night. Apologies for the inconvenience." Monica didn't blink. Kara added, "We'll keep your resume on file, already." reaching for her mouse as if to signal that the meeting was over. No handshake. No offer to walk her out. Just the gentle suffocation of a door closing. Monica stepped back into the hallway, her fingers tightening around her folder. As she passed the reception desk, the woman didn't even look up. She pressed the elevator button, exhaled once, and rode down in silence. On the 10th floor, behind a wall of tinted glass, Ethan Cross had watched the entire thing. He hadn't moved since Darren had entered the room. The interview had been streamed through the firm's private AV feed, a capability Ethan had quietly requested be rerouted to his temporary observation suite just 48 hours ago. Ethan, 48, clean-shaven, dark-skinned, and composed in a tailored charcoal suit, was a man accustomed to boardrooms that didn't expect him. Born in Atlanta, Harvard-educated, and made his name flipping mid-sized consulting firms into competitive powerhouses, Ethan had closed on a majority acquisition of Westbridge and Milton just 3 days earlier. The news hadn't been made public yet, not because he wanted secrecy, but because he wanted truth. He had asked Monica to apply for the brand strategist role, not to test her, but to test them. "Play back the last 2 minutes," Ethan said quietly. The young legal associate beside him tapped a few keys, and the screen replayed the dismissive tones, the clipped phrases, the final insult, "We'll keep your resume on file." Ethan's jaw clenched. His expression remained unreadable. "Get HR 1130. All directors. No exceptions." "Which ones?" the associate asked. "All of them," Ethan replied, his voice sharp and still. He stared out across the skyline, where the water shimmered in the mid-morning sun. Below, Monica walked toward the parking garage, unaware that everything was already in motion. Ethan had read the hiring statistics, had scanned the emails, had seen the patterns, the faces, the sameness of it all. And now, he'd seen the culture in real time. "Send me the AV feed, time-stamped. Audio 2, he said. "Have it ready in 20? The associate nodded and exited. Ethan remained still. He wasn't angry, not in the traditional sense. What he felt was confirmation. They hadn't seen her. Not really. And now the company they thought they knew was about to change. Downstairs, Monica sat in her car, the leather folder resting on her lap. Her lipstick was still perfect. Her blazer still sharp. And yet somehow, she felt like she'd disappeared in that room. She wasn't crying. But her throat was tight. She glanced at her reflection in the rearview mirror. She didn't look defeated, just invisible. The same way she'd felt 3 years ago when she left her job to care for her mother. She had done that with grace. With no bitterness. And now she had returned, thinking her experience would be seen as dedication, not a liability. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan, heading home soon. "Don't go anywhere just yet." She stared at the screen for a long moment. Then she tucked the phone away, reached for the ignition, and whispered to herself, "Stillness isn't silence." Above her, in a room she hadn't seen, plans were shifting, chairs were already being pulled, and reputations were moments from unraveling. And she, Monica Taylor, was no longer just an applicant. She was about to be the reason a company would finally face itself. Darren Lowe stirred his coffee in the break room with one hand and tapped an email on his phone with the other, laughing as he recapped a client's typo to Kara Whitmore. She actually wrote brand suppository instead of brand repository. "I almost lost it." Kara chuckled, leaned back against the counter, arms crossed, still riding the smug confidence from the morning's interview. "Well," she said, "at least we didn't waste our time today." That woman clearly wasn't a cultural fit. Darren smirked. "Did you see your portfolio, though? Slick formatting, but nothing that screamed senior strategy to me." Kara raised an eyebrow. 3 years out of the game? It's 2025, not 2015. This place moves fast. At 11:18 a.m., both their phones buzzed simultaneously. Subject: Mandatory HR meeting, executive boardroom, 11:30 sharp. Darren furrowed his brow. That's fast. Did someone mess up the onboarding paperwork again? Kara shrugged, unconcerned. Probably some announcement about the new ownership, finally. At 11:29, they strolled casually down the hall, still chatting. The moment the doors opened, the air changed. No projector. No agenda packets. Just Ethan Cross standing at the head of a sleek conference table, flanked by Layla Park from legal and two HR directors with clipped expressions. Kara paused mid-step. "We weren't told what this was about," she said, trying to reclaim control. Ethan didn't smile. "You will be." Silence reigned as Layla tapped a key on her laptop. Audio played, crisp, clear, unmistakable. Kara's voice, sharp. "Have you worked in an office this size before?" Darren's dismissive tone. "Actually, this position was filled last night." Then Ethan's voice cut in. "You both had the opportunity to evaluate a candidate who exceeded every qualification posted for the role. Instead, you questioned her validity. You doubted her worth. And then you dismissed her with a lie." Kara bristled. "We had an internal candidate." "That applied after the interview had already started," Layla interrupted. Darren shifted. "We didn't mean any disrespect." "But you delivered it anyway," Ethan replied coolly. He turned to Rosa, the HR director. "Tell them." Rosa lifted a folder. "Westbridge and Milton is under new leadership as of 3 days ago. With that change comes an equity review of all departmental processes. This morning's interview was observed, recorded, and flagged." Kara's voice wavered. "That woman, Monica Taylor, is my wife," Ethan said, his voice like glass just before it shatters. Silence fell like a gavel. Darren paled. Kara blinked twice, trying to reorient. "We didn't know," she said. "That was the point," Ethan said. "No red carpet. No special treatment. Just a candidate walking through your doors, hoping to be seen for who she is. And you couldn't do that. Not even for 15 minutes. Layla folded her arms. "Effective immediately, your roles in the upcoming leadership announcement are withdrawn. A departmental audit is underway. And further decisions will be made pending its conclusion." Kara tried again. "Ethan, please. This isn't personal." "It's not," he agreed. "It's structural. And it stops now." At 11:43, the meeting ended. Kara and Darren walked out silently. Down the hall, the energy in the office had shifted. Everyone could feel it. At 11:55, Monica stepped through the glass doors again, her heels clicking against the polished floor with a different rhythm. This time, no receptionist offered her a wary glance. No fake smile. A man in a dark suit approached instead. "Miss Taylor?" he asked. "Right this way. Mr. Cross is expecting you." She was led down a hallway she hadn't seen earlier, one lined with framed success stories and past client milestones. The air was cooler here, controlled, yes, but no longer cold. It felt deliberate. When the doors opened, Ethan was already standing. Around the table sat senior partners, HR leaders, and Rosa. He didn't say anything at first. He just looked at her. She gave a subtle nod. No smile. Just readiness. Ethan stepped back and gestured. "Everyone, this is Monica Taylor, brand strategist, campaign leader, and until 90 minutes ago, the most overqualified candidate this firm has overlooked in a decade." Monica stepped forward. Her voice didn't tremble. "Let me clarify a few things," she began. "I wasn't hoping someone would see my potential. I brought it with me. I know what I bring to the table. What I won't tolerate is being reduced to a checklist or a liability because of a career break rooted in love and sacrifice." The room was still. No interruptions. One executive, a woman named Laura Jensen, leaned forward slightly. "Miss Taylor, if we had the opportunity to course correct, would you still want to lead here?" Monica didn't rush the answer. She glanced briefly at Ethan, then back at the room. I came here today looking for a door. Instead, I found a mirror. I don't need to knock on one more boardroom to prove I belong. I'm building my own. My firm launches this fall. It's called Northspire Collective. We build authentic brands for companies that don't need reminding who their audience is. Ethan gave the faintest of smiles. Not victory. Not vindication. Just respect. Monica turned to go. She didn't look back. Outside, the lobby was quieter now. Colder only in temperature. Not tone. Monica walked back through the same glass doors, but this time, something was different. Not the space. Her. She was no longer waiting to be chosen. And upstairs, everyone who had watched her pass through the first time was now left reckoning with what it meant that they hadn't really seen her at all. The email went out at 7:04 a.m. sharp. Subject line, leadership transition and departmental audit, immediate action required. By 7:17, the entire executive floor of Westbridge and Milton was buzzing. Assistants whispered in corners, directors scrolled the memo again and again, trying to decipher the subtext. But there was no subtext. The message was direct, surgical. Effective immediately, Darren Lowe and Kara Whitmore were no longer part of the firm's leadership structure. A third-party consulting agency had been hired to conduct a full audit of hiring practices, interview protocols, and internal promotion trends from the past 6 years. Mandatory equity training for all department heads. Anonymous feedback channels opened. The walls had ears now, and eyes. And those who had dismissed Monica Taylor as a footnote were now scrambling to revise their narratives. Kara's office door stayed closed. Darren's nameplate was gone by lunch. By 10 a.m., the internal leak began. A whisper here. A Slack message there. Then screenshots. A former staffer shared a snippet of the memo on LinkedIn, tagging it with a line that would carry across the internet. This is what happens when you underestimate the right woman. Within hours, Monica's name was trending across professional networks. Quiet applause turned into full-on conversation. The corporate world, always hungry for a case study, now had a new one, and this time, it wasn't built in a boardroom but in a moment of refusal. She didn't yell. She didn't demand. She declined, with dignity. Ethan Cross didn't issue a press statement. He didn't need to. The firm's silence spoke volumes, and the silence said, "We were wrong." Meanwhile, across the city, Monica sat in the soft sunlight of a downtown cafe, her laptop open, earbuds in, reviewing branding concepts for her new firm, Northspire Collective. No marble lobby. No corner office. Just vision, clarity, and her own pace. The name had come to her the night before, North for direction, Spire for growth. It felt like ascent. It felt like freedom. The first proposal she reviewed was from a nonprofit that had quietly reached out, led by a Latina founder who had admired Monica's campaigns from afar. "We've been looking for someone who gets our voice," the email had read. "I think that someone is you." The second message was from a mid-size apparel brand. The founder had seen the memo. Had heard the whispers. "You don't know me," she'd written, "but I've known you for years, your work, your impact. If you're taking clients, we'd like to talk." By noon, Monica had 3 signed contracts. By 2 p.m., she'd hired her first assistant. And by 5:30, her former mentee, Jillian Rhodes, now a rising star in digital strategy, had texted, "Heard what happened. About time people saw what we already knew. I want in. Let's build something better." Back at Westbridge and Milton, the atmosphere was unfamiliar. Meetings felt heavier. The firm, long praised for its polished exterior, was now staring into its reflection and not liking what it saw. At 3 p.m., Ethan sat across from Laura Jensen, one of the firm's most respected VPs. "How did we miss this?" she asked, genuine. Not defensive. Not performative. Just searching. Ethan's reply was simple. "We didn't miss it. We just got used to it." Later that week, a national publication published a feature titled "The Checklist Problem: What Monica Taylor's Interview Revealed About Corporate Comfort Zones." The story went viral. So did the clip from Monica's boardroom speech, which someone had recorded discreetly and shared with her permission. One line echoed everywhere: "I wasn't hoping someone would see my potential. I brought it with me." From DEI consultants to working mothers to HR professionals tired of lip service, the story resonated. News anchors debated it. Podcasts quoted it. Even college business professors included it in lectures about leadership and implicit bias. Monica never addressed the media directly. She didn't need to. She was busy building. A week later, she received a package. No return address. Inside, a card with simple lettering: "Thank you for saying what so many of us couldn't." Attached was a stack of handwritten notes from anonymous employees, women, men, queer staff, Black, Asian, Latino, disabled, each recounting moments when they too were passed over, talked down to, made to feel small. Monica read every word. And then she did something simple. She sent a single email to her assistant: "Start a file called Voices. We're going to do something with these." Meanwhile, Westbridge and Milton's board finalized the restructuring. Ethan stayed quiet publicly but was relentless internally. A new talent director was hired, one whose hiring panel included 2 junior staffers, 1 community partner, and a rotating equity chair. The company's mission statement was rewritten. Performance reviews now included inclusivity metrics. Promotions paused for review. And the elevator that once carried Monica to an interview built on prejudice now carried others to interviews built on purpose. Ethan was later asked by an executive from a competing firm whether it was worth it. The hit to reputation, the media firestorm, the fallout. Ethan had smiled faintly and answered, "Absolutely. We can rebuild trust. What we can't rebuild is integrity once it's lost." And we almost lost it, until Monica reminded us who we're supposed to be. 3 months later, Monica stood on stage at a private conference hosted by one of her new clients. The room was filled with leaders, many of whom had seen the story, heard the whispers, and come to hear directly from the woman who walked away from power only to redefine it. Her talk was titled, "Redefining Value: Why Being Overlooked is Sometimes the Beginning." At the end of her speech, someone from the audience asked, "Do you think things are really changing?" Monica paused, letting the question breathe. Then she smiled. Change doesn't start in policies. It starts in rooms like this. With people who stop pretending not to see. So yes, I think it's starting. Back in Chicago, Ethan poured himself a coffee in the firm's newly renovated Commons. A younger intern, one who had only joined the firm 2 weeks earlier, walked up nervously. "Mr. Cross, can I ask you something?" Ethan nodded. "That story about Monica. It's real, right?" Ethan smiled, just a little. "It's more than real. It's a reminder." Later that day, a junior executive clicked open the firm's updated hiring page. At the top of the portal was a quote: "Don't just look for the best fit. Look for the best truth." Underneath was the credit: Monica Taylor, North Spire Collective. And at her small but growing office overlooking the lake, Monica reviewed another partnership request. She leaned back in her chair, letting the moment settle. She hadn't won anything in the traditional sense. No title. No bonus. No press tour. But what she had gained was something better: clarity. The kind that couldn't be shaken by an unreturned email or a condescending glance. She had stepped into a room they tried to shrink her in. And instead of folding, she had expanded. Not to prove them wrong, but to prove herself right. What happened to Monica Taylor is not just a story, it's a mirror. A mirror for corporate America, for leadership, for every boardroom that claims to value diversity while quietly resisting change. But more than that, it's a mirror for all of us. Because at some point in our lives, we've all stood where Monica stood, overqualified, undervalued, and asked to prove ourselves in a room that never intended to see us clearly. The lesson here is not just about justice or retribution. It's about self-worth. Monica didn't walk away because she was angry, she walked away because she was clear. Clear on what she brought to the table. Clear on what she deserved. And when the room failed to meet that clarity, she didn't lower herself to fit in. She rose. And that's the message I want you to carry from this story: know your worth. Define it for yourself. Don't wait for a title, a panel, or a polished office to tell you that you belong. Whether you're applying for a job, building a business, or just trying to be heard, don't shrink to fit someone else's expectations. The people who fail to see your value aren't always your enemies. Sometimes they're just unready for your truth. And that's their limitation, not yours. To the companies listening, inclusion isn't about hiring one person from a different background and patting yourselves on the back. It's about building systems that are as equitable behind closed doors as they are on your website. If you're only inclusive when the spotlight is on, you're not inclusive, you're performative. And trust me, people can tell the difference. To those of you who've been Monica, who've been talked over, sidelined, or passed by, keep building. Keep showing up with excellence, with grace, and with power. Because when your moment comes, it won't just change your life, it will challenge the entire system around you to be better. And finally, to our amazing audience at US Instructive Stories. Thank you for listening, for sharing, and for caring about stories like Monica's. Stories that don't just entertain, they edify. Your support gives power to voices that deserve to be heard and stories that deserve to be told. If this story moved you, we invite you to subscribe, comment, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded that they are enough. Let's keep learning. Let's keep growing. And most of all, let's keep building rooms where everyone is seen. With deep gratitude,